To celebrate LGBTQ History Month, let's go on a whistle-stop tour of the dramas created by queer TV icon Russell T Davies over his illustrious and influential career. First up is the provocative and groundbreaking Queer as Folk. Originally titled Queer as F***, even Channel 4 decided that might have been a step too far. Broadcast in 2000, it paints a vivid picture of gay life in Manchester at the turn of the millennium, following confident Stuart, his nerdy best friend Vince, and 15-year-old Nathan, who somehow gets involved in their lives as he explores his own sexuality and coming-out journey. Next in RTD's resume comes Bob and Rose, the romantic comedy about a gay man who falls in love with a woman. With a fabulous cast including Alan Davis, Leslie Sharp, Jessica Hines and Penelope Wilton, the series fell sadly under the radar due to being broadcast amid the coverage of the 9/11 terror attacks. It's a wonderful story, however, and well worth a watch, especially for Penelope Wilton's turn as Bob's gay rights activist mother. With its questions about labels and identities and a love is love message, this show was ahead of its time.
Stop that! Bob!
In 2003, Russell turned to perhaps an even more controversial subject matter, religion. The Second Coming tells the story of an ordinary bloke from Manchester who has the sudden realisation that he is in fact the Son of God. It stars Christopher Eccleston, who would of course go on to work with Davies again as the 9th Doctor in Doctor Who, and Leslie Sharp, who had previously starred in Bob and Rose. Davies claimed that his intention with this drama was to provoke debate and get people thinking about religion.
I've seen it. You stupid. Stupid people! I've seen what you've done!
On to one of Davies' more obscure works now, 2004's Mine All Mine. This was a quirky comedy drama about Max, played by Griff Rhys-Jones, who believes that the town of Swansea was built on land owned by his ancestors and that he therefore owns the town. When an old document is authenticated proving him right, chaos ensues. There's also queer representation in the fact that Max's son Leo is gay, and there's also a familiar face in the shape of Gareth David Lloyd, playing a character called Yanto Jones.
This is Yanto Jones.
The spelling of which would change slightly for his Torchwood character. Russell's next project was an adaptation of the life of Casanova for the BBC. This starred David Tennant in the title role, and unbeknownst to him, would constitute an informal audition for the 10th Doctor, as he was offered the role on the basis of his performance. It's a delightfully energetic period piece, with a modern, anachronistic strain running through it.
Bollocks!
Plenty of jokes about the present day, and some funky dance moves which almost certainly weren't seen in real-life 18th century Venice. It wouldn't feel right to leave this one out. As we all know, Russell brought Doctor Who back to our screens in 2005, and it became the most phenomenal success. He injected the programme with his signature heartfelt, character-driven style, and inspired a whole new generation to love this silly blue box show, and I wouldn't be making this video otherwise. In 2006, Davies brought us Torchwood, a Doctor Who spin-off designed for an adult audience, and it was unapologetically queer from the off. From the omnipresent omnisexuality of Captain Jack, to the characters such as Toshiko who would explore their sexuality during the series, Torchwood was an important show to a generation of queer viewers, and remains popular to this day. Having been approached by CBBC to create a Doctor Who spin-off for younger viewers, Russell vetoed the initial idea of a series about a young Doctor on Gallifrey, as he felt it would remove from the mystery of the character. Instead, in 2007, he brought us the Sarah Jane Adventures, following former companion Sarah Jane Smith and her gang of school-age investigators. Notably, the character of Luke Smith was intended to come out as gay in a later series, but sadly the show ended prematurely due to the passing of its lead actress Elizabeth Sladen, and the plotline was never realised. Davies would, however, achieve this milestone when the character of Benny came out as gay in another CBBC sci-fi fantasy series, Wizards vs. Aliens. Next, in 2015, comes a trio of programmes marking Russell's return to full-on queer drama. Aired on Channel 4, Cucumber was an 8-part drama focusing on middle-aged Henry and the breakdown of his relationship with his boyfriend Lance. A companion series, Banana, aired alongside it on E4. This was an anthology series, with each half-hour episode focusing on a different minor character from the main drama, telling a broader range of stories across the queer spectrum. Russell also produced an online documentary series, Tofu, exploring 21st century attitudes to sex from a range of everyday people. The titles of these 3 programmes were inspired by a scientific study into the hardness of the male erection, ranging from tofu as the softest to cucumber as the hardest. In 2016, Davies turned his hand to Shakespeare, adapting one of the Bard's most famous plays, A Midsummer Night's Dream, for the BBC. It wasn't just a straight adaptation though, quite the opposite, as Russell included queer elements amid the fantasy, even being bold enough to rewrite the play's ending to romantically pair off Hippolyta with Titania, Queen of the Fairies. Political drama next, as Davies dramatised the 1970s Jeremy Thorpe affair in A Very English Scandal. This series starred Hugh Grant as the Liberal Party leader who allegedly had an affair with a man called Norman Scott, played by Ben Whishaw, and subsequently tried to have him murdered for threatening to go public. Russell's next project was the hugely ambitious Years and Years, broadcast in 2019 and set between then and 2034, following the Lyons family as they witness increasingly tumultuous global events. Depicting a dystopian future, the series offers a stark warning about how political tides change and the seismic domino effect that small choices can have.
Beware those men, the jokers and the tricksters and the clowns. They will laugh us into hell.
Lauded by many as RTD's masterpiece, in 2021, Channel 4 broadcast It's a Sin, a drama chronicling a group of friends living through the AIDS crisis in the 1980s. As well as helping to normalise the portrayal of gay sex on mainstream television, this hard-hitting drama raised awareness of the AIDS epidemic among a generation mercifully too young to have experienced it firsthand. Most recently, before his return to Doctor Who, Russell wrote the 3-part miniseries Nolly, dramatising the firing and subsequent return of actress Noel Gordon from the ITV soap opera Crossroads. It starred Helena Bonham Carter in the title role and featured a brilliant cameo from Mark Gatiss in the role of Larry Grayson. Russell T Davies has been a powerhouse of television for decades now, particularly in queer stories and representation. I can't wait to see what he turns his hand to next, but I'm sure whatever it is, it'll be fantastic.